Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hi, Rob. I am writing to you to share my thoughts on this issue of canceling others and getting to cancel others when we measure people on one aspect. And this is in regards to Ben Shapiro. You brought the conversation to us well, and you're right by highlighting how one video shouldn't be used as a smoking gun to discredit the entirety of one person. Measuring people by one aspect is what allowed Ben Shapiro to be unironically labeled as a Nazi, which is fucking wild. I want to keep this brief. I supported Ben Shapiro in the beginning, but came to change my mind when I learned there were more silly things he said than sensible ones. And even though he carries himself as someone who believes in facts over feelings, he seems to choose the facts he likes. Overall, his views aren't particularly thought-provoking, and I let free of my timeline by simply unfollowing. Then the BBC interview. Ben got upset and called the British presenter a liberal when anybody in the UK would know the presenter is our flavor of right wing. Simply put, Ben Shapiro had become the college students he debated that made him internet famous. But I don't dislike the guy. I won't hate him or cancel him in my mind. I make it a policy to never block people on Twitter. This lets me still see his tweets that make sense. Ben knows something about being Jewish after all. So Ben supporting Gina Carano makes sense. It undermines the outrage directed at Gina, the hypocrisy of Disney, who folds so easily in front of a mob. This should have meant something to observers, and I didn't see the mob checking themselves, nor did I see a single retraction against Gina when Ben stood by her. We have got to have nuance when the people we deal with and measure them on every issue, but not just one. But I think people know deep down the world is complicated and have a natural need to simplify things. But having said all that, this isn't the point I want to discuss. What I'm fascinated by at the moment are people like the reader who are going to stop watching you and all the hours of content that you provide because you said some nice things about Ben Shapiro. That reader is leaving your community after listening to hours and hours and hours of discussion because of this single issue. Logically, it being entirely self-limiting, how can anyone function in this manner and not compromise their beliefs if followed to their logical conclusion? I have to wonder if they actually listened to your nuanced views and thought deeply about the open-minded things that you say. I've only been listening to you for about 50 episodes from your podcast, but the things you say are nutritional to me. I like that. Things I say are nutritional. I've actually thought that about what other people say, but I've never seen it articulated before. But in the case of this other person's actions toward you, what does this say about the value of long-term engagement with people of interest on social media? I see this person punishing themselves by leaving. As you mentioned in the mail, you've mentioned Ben Shapiro in 2 episodes out of 626. How does that even compute that you would extract yourself from the group? Are your views that painful to them? During the height of Black Lives Matter, an IG fitness lady I follow, Instagram fitness lady I follow, posted a black square. That lady was told by hundreds of accounts they were unfollowing her. She didn't care, I have to add, but nothing changed on her timeline other than posting that one black square. And a big podcaster last year who wears his politics front and center makes regular cross-cultural observations between the societies of the U.S. and Spain. His views are very critical of the USA, mostly government, and how people treat one another, but it's backed up by his informed opinion. Listeners should know what to expect from him, and he is, in my opinion, valid and informed in his societal discourse, as you are in pop culture. Well, one episode he mentioned the importance of wearing masks, and his listeners went so far as to cancel their Patreon and rage tweet at him because of this one single thing. I was surprised because it was entirely predictable that he would say such a thing. I sat here questioning how the value of creator-fan relationships can be so easily compromised. And what does it say about us all when we not only dismiss these people we don't like, but also those we do like and obviously enjoy, but now no longer want to because of one single issue? Thoughts on this, please? Well, Jonathan J.K., I want to say thank you. People are complex individuals. They like many different things. And I think that's what makes us great. I mean, one of the things on this channel, I've met people that like lots of crazy stuff. Like today, if you didn't watch it, on Let's Get Physical Media, I only purchased 2. That's right, 2 discs this week for my collection. The first was the movie Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater, Happy Hard Harry. This came out from Warner Archive. I love this movie. I think it's a great film. Alan Moyle did a terrific job writing and directing this movie. I thought Samantha Mathis as the Eat Me Beat Me lady was terrific, and Happy Hard Harry, Christian Slater, a legend. This film probably spoke to a lot of teenagers, and I think today it probably still does. You know what the other disc I bought was? The 4K version of the X-rated Sex World. That's right. I bought a 4K X-rated 70s porn film that's a parody of Westworld. By the way, from Vinegar Syndrome, great package. A 3-disc set. And this also comes with the R-rated softcore version. Now, look at this cover. This artwork. I'm sure somebody would say, that's offensive. Oh my God, Rob, how could you buy that, especially after you've bought Pump Up the Volume? What do buying those 2 things say to us about you? Well, they would say that at least I think they would, that my interests are wide and varied. And I think it's really interesting. There are 2 science fiction films, science fiction pornographic films that I particularly loved. Sex World was, well, actually there was 3 that were X-rated: Flesh Gordon, Sex World, and Cafe Flesh. Cafe Flesh is not available on Blu-ray or 4K, I don't think. But if it ever did come out on 4K, I'd buy that too. Now, I think human beings, if you live on this planet, you should be multifaceted and interested in a lot of different things. If someone's going to hate me because I mentioned Ben Shapiro once, I watch Ben Shapiro's movie reviews of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and things like that. And yes, he's got a conservative bent to him, and yes, he's an Orthodox Jew. So I find his existence fascinating. I feel I can learn from him. Sometimes I think what he says is bunk. But the fact that because I would listen to Ben Shapiro, it's not like he's not a public figure. He's out there. You can't be on the internet or read the news without coming across a mention of Ben Shapiro. And the fact that he got involved in the entertainment industry space and is going to distribute movies and then make movies with Gina Carano, I would certainly be remiss in terms of knowing what pop culture is all about and certainly working in Hollywood if I did not acknowledge what the Daily Wire as becoming a distributor could mean to the industry. Like, why wouldn't I do that? I don't know. If somebody wants to hate me for that, well, they can. I understand that. I wasn't supporting Ben Shapiro. I was just reporting on something that happened. I think it's odd. I don't understand how human beings that have many different facets and all different interests, how is it that they are somehow treated this way? I don't get it. I guess it's because if you grew up in a generation where you had no hardship and you were told, I don't know if it's that every kid gets a trophy thing, that people grew up that way. Maybe they needed to read a little bit more history.